Hey, welcome.
We made it finally.
Uh, welcome, just welcome. Because I'm so upset that we had so many tech issues at the very last 5 minutes of us about to log in and start talking about this topic.
We were on and then we weren't. So I don't know.
I'm just gonna put it out there. If we just all crash and burn right now, it's because the universe said not today. We're not speaking, or we could blame it on the fact that the alphabet boys are hearing what we're talking about, and they're like, "No, y'all not gonna be talking about no presidential elections and who to
I
vote
guess that
for."
could be it.
We're gonna blame it on
We're gonna think
somebody.
positively.
Yes, we're gonna blame it on somebody. Right now we have and look, oh my god, it's crazy when I tell you that this whole technology thing is like bullshit real quick. But anyway, like and subscribe
There
on
you go.
YouTube, unfiltered you know. I'm sorry once again, but life happens, life be lifing. I
I
got
feel
Kat,
like
got Liz, and we're gonna hope and cross our fingers that we're able to continue to have a conversation. It's
mm-hmm.
interesting. The name of this episode is the "Are We Doomed? Does Our Vote Even
Dun
Matter?"
dun dun.
And you know what's so interesting? Because I did not want to have a conversation about these two old farts again. I was like,
No,
I put it off.
no, me neither. You're right.
We got some time. There's other topics to talk about, but it seems like every second, every week, there's something going on. 9
Right.
days ago, I believe, allies of the Democratic Party were calling for our president, currently Biden, to drop out of the race, and that was because during their debates, it looked like Biden was. You ever see like we were having technical difficulties and we were kind of like frozen, so we were talking like. uh, That's how Biden was moving.
It was a little something like that. Yes, it was.
A lot of glitching in the matrix. And,
Live glitching. Yes, that's what we're gonna call it. Yes.
and to be honest with you, I don't know if you guys tuned in for the last presidential election. I mean, excuse me, the debates. But Trump couldn't hold his mouth. He couldn't. He was just going a mile a minute about everything. And it just so happened that he was kind of poised. He was kind of quiet. He was letting Biden freeze, and he was like, he was making his facial expressions, but he was actually, I guess, following the rules of the debate because they ended up implementing rules now that they have to follow by, and they can follow. I think you were telling me, Cash, they can mute your mic now too, so that
Mm-hmm.
while we're debating, if somebody's going over whatever, they can go poop poop. So
Right.
my question is, Biden was born 1942. Donald Trump was born 1946.
Mm-hmm.
I know some people that were born 1949 and 1950. Does age, in your opinion, both of you guys, should age in general be a factor in reference to running the country? Because of course, the younger you are, you have more new ideas. But then, of course, with age, you have more experience and blah blah blah. What do you guys think on that?
So, okay, I'll jump in there. I think that, with age comes wisdom in most cases. I think that you can get to a point where, I think everybody can get to a point where we should take a driver's license, right? And if you can't operate a car, maybe you shouldn't run a country. Saying, right? I'm not abandoning Biden, and we'll get to that on
Yeah,
why
we're
I
gonna get
wouldn't.
to it.
But I am saying that I prefer an older president in some instances. I do think that you can be too old.
Okay, but they're right around each other's age group. 42 and 46 is right around the corner.
Yeah, but I could do without both of them. It's just if I had to pick one of the two horses, I'm still riding with Biden. So, but
Got you.
yeah,
What about you? What you feel, Cash, about that?
Well, I would agree with Liz that, at some point, like with most things, too much is too much. So, yeah, there comes a point where, you can't have a president that's, 102 or, like at some point, like it's just going uh, too far, Now, I guess the other question is this guy too old or is Trump too old? And in that sense, that I guess the answer to that will be it depends, which is the
Mhm.
answer to a lot of things in American politics, all depending upon who you ask and what their agenda is or whatever. Someone may be too old or too young or too skinny or too fat. Who knows?
Mhm.
All depending upon what their agenda is.
Okay. So first I want to jump in here. Good evening, everyone. Thanks. And then we got Specs. Hey.
Hey, stranger, miss you.
What up? And I don't know if you happen to be still listening, Specs, or you're walking around, so you're not listening at the moment. But I know I spoke to him briefly, and he made a point that I said, "Oh, I have to mention it during the show," because he was saying like, "Hey, people are not even thinking per se about Biden. They're thinking about, let's just say, he's past life age expectancy. So if he passes away during this new term."
Mhm.
Harris is going to take place, and that's who they are definitely afraid of, Miss Harris. And
Mhm.
I kind of thought to myself, like, interesting. And the reason why I thought about that is because I never got that type of feeling from her in reference to she was like the person with here's my policies, here's my this, I'm taking a stance hardcore. Like she's not per se,
Really? Okay.
so that's how I felt. No, personally, I never really got too much. I know when she was running for president, some years back, she wasn't really high in the polls. So I never seen that too much steam for her in particular. But so when he made that statement, like they're not worried about Biden. Biden might pass away a year or two from now. They're worried about her becoming the next president. Do you guys agree, or
Who's worried about her becoming the president?
Oh, you Republicans.
Oh, well, because they're worried about any Democrat becoming president. It could literally be Joe Smo tomorrow, and it's going to be, oh, we hate him. He's the worst thing that ever happened to the country. So they're just anti all Americans, all Democrats in general. It doesn't matter that it's her. I actually happen to know of her before she ran, and I can get with a lot of what she stands for. A lot of it, actually, from when she was a state attorney in California, then she was a senator, and as a senator, she was no slouch either. So she has a really strong record on a lot of things that I can get behind, and that a Republican wouldn't get behind, right? So of course they don't want her to be the president. So sticking to that same point, the reason that I'm saying I'm voting for him regardless, because I don't have a problem with any of the people around him. When Ronald Reagan was president, we all know it was Nancy Reagan that was actually the president, right? When Bill Clinton was getting his dick sucked in the White House, we know that Hillary was running the country. So if Jill Biden is holding it down right now, she's doing a bang up job, and I'll vote them in again, because this is not the first time this has happened. It's not even the first time it's happened in recent history within our lifetimes. And if you go further back than that, it's always been a good woman behind the man, anyways. Whether that's Jill or Kamala or whoever they want to give credit to.
Okay. What is your?
I mean, I don't know if they're particularly scared or worried about, Kamala. I think that Kamala and Joe, they're, the more centrist, center right, wing of the Democratic Party. So although Mitch McConnell and others will, feign all this, outcry and, Biden is a communist, they know better. They know Biden is not a communist. They know Kamala Harris is not Marxist or a communist. These are very much, very capitalistic and, corporate per se Democrats, and
I don't know that I call them center right, though. That's going a little far.
Well, let's say center. Let's say center. Okay. Centrist.
Okay, fine.
Centrist. That's the word. Okay. Let's go with centrist. So these are centrist Democrats, and they are not looking to, wage any sort of revolution or anything like that.
Right.
But that's not something that the Republicans can really run on. Obama as well wasn't really trying to wage any sort of revolution.
No, he was very centrist. Yeah, very much centrist.
But what good is that to run on? It's much better, to run on the fact that this person is trying to drag the entire country, far left into some
Right.
Marxist utopia versus what the situation actually is.
Right.
So I think they don't want Kamala. I don't know if they're necessarily, really believing or, scared that,
Right.
if
Exactly.
her or Joe had the reins, that they're really going to, fundamentally change the country per se.
Hmm.
So just to kind of throw in some, just in case I know some people don't follow the news, but just in case you were listening on the news, just recently, I don't know, a couple of days ago, I want to say, the Supreme Court ruling on presidential immunity. The Supreme Court ruled that the president, including Trump, have immunity from prosecution when carrying out official acts. However, there's no immunity for unofficial acts. But they never made a clear distinction of what is what. The bunny ears feels that, hey, because of the security of the nation and this, I feel this way, then it is what it is, even if he is supposedly breaking a law of some sort. I was a little nervous about what just happened because it's like it opened up, a whole lot of questions. I know one time when he was running initially years back, he said, I could go down Fifth Avenue, point my gun and shoot somebody and nothing would happen to me. In actuality, that's what it seems like. Can you want to break down, Cash, exactly for those who don't per se turn on that news, that CNN, that Fox, of what's going on?
So in regards to the presidential immunity, Trump, as we all know, is being prosecuted, and one of his strategies to avoid this prosecution is to delay this prosecution. So in efforts to delay the prosecution, he has, filed millions of motions, a lot of them with no sort of legal merit whatsoever. But the thing is, these motions have to be reviewed, they have to be adjudicated, and this all takes time. So this particular motion, he's like, well, as far as the January 6th trial, these charges that I'm facing, I have presidential immunity. And he's really asserted that this and all of these various trials, that's one of the first things he goes with is presidential immunity. And so the circuit court had ruled that no, obviously the president doesn't just have this blanket immunity, and ultimately he appeals it all the way to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court initially, most people thought that they didn't have to take the case. They could have just went with the lower court's decision. But people who suspected that he appointed 3 of the current justices. So people who suspected that they may be in the fix believed that if they wanted to try and help them, one way that they could help them was to accept the case, which the Supreme Court every year turns down way more cases than they actually accept, but that they can accept the case, and then once they have control of the case, that they can sit on it or delay it or whatever they want to do. And it took them maybe 4 or 5 months or so in order to come back with a decision. And what they were being asked was that, okay, in this case, with these crimes that he's being charged of, does he have immunity from these charges? And what they essentially came back with was, well, they didn't really address the individual case.
No, they didn't.
So their tactic was, well, the president in general has broad immunities in order to execute his office. So some things are covered under this immunity and some things are not, which is what we all knew 5-6 months ago. Okay, some things are covered and some things are not covered. And they chose not to weigh in on whether or not the things that he actually did were or were not covered. They have deferred that back to the lower court for them to decide whether or not these acts are a part of his official businesses, the presidency or not. And honestly, once, let's say the lower court actually does make a decision on this, then Trump can appeal it back to the Supreme Court, and it would be back to the Supreme Court for the Supreme Court to take however much time they want to adjudicate this or not. So, in all likelihood, the real ramifications of this is that in all likelihood, his personal January 6th case is not going to be adjudicated prior to the election. In regards to presidents in general, it doesn't really change anything. They're saying the president is immune in some situations and not immune in other situations. And
so I'm going to interject real quick because
have to come to us.
I'm going to interject real quick just because a lot of comments are coming in. But once the comments come in and Liz reads those comments, I want to play devil's advocate for a second because I'll admit, I know a lot of conservative, I would say conservative in the closet people that are, and the reason why I say conservative in the closet,
that's great.
Because their speaking points are very conservative. Their speaking points are from the right and this and this, but they don't want to per se come out with it. It's funny because once again, I was talking to Specs earlier, and he was saying like there are people who are kind of in the middle. They're not picking a side. And I guess it's also maybe like a popularity thing. Like I don't want to be on the losing team, but then again, like I feel this way. I mean, and
yeah, we don't need any fair weather fans, right?
But I do know a lot of them who whisper like, "Oh, did you hear?" And I'm like, "Well, come on the shows, let everybody know." Oh, no, I don't do TV. I don't do no social media. I'd be like, "Oh, okay." So let's just go ahead and just read some of that. This is from Adele.
So, hi, and I think that's her first time commenting as well, right? So welcome to the conversation. It depends on if the person is coherent. I think she was speaking of, is it, can they be too old? So, yeah. So, for sure. Then we've got God Sunday evening, bless these. So, hi, Z, or Toya.
Hey.
And let's see, we got hello, everyone from Annie Shannon. I know she has a lot to say coming up. Then you've got Anna D says, good evening. Hi, welcome to the comment section. Then let's see. Z says, to Liz's point, Edith Wilson was also the backbone to Woodrow Wilson's presidency in the 20s. So,
yeah. Good point.
Right. So, all right. So Annie said, I noticed that no matter what Trump does or says, the Republican Party stands firmly with him. Democrats have to stick together and be loyal. 100%.
I gotta say something to that real quick. It's really interesting because I hate the fact that when it comes to not even per se being loyal, I'll say that when it's time for the Democrats to make moves and like, hey, the way the Republicans are cutthroat. Like I will tell you about your mama and your sister and do what I gotta do. You're like, man, that's so mean, you Republicans. Like, look how you said this. I don't even know what to say. You holding your pearls. The Democrats will come in, they'll be like, no, we don't want to hurt nobody's feelings. We're going to think about it. We're going to talk about it. All right, maybe there's another way. But it's like, why can't we be as firm and as strong as our Republican people on the other side?
I have a theory on that. Oh, I'm sorry. So you have the Republican Party who not only for the most part is, racially homogenous, they all also think the same way. The perception is we win and lose together, right? So when Republicans win, like at least the perception is that we've all won together, and so it's easier to get everyone rowing a boat in the same direction when everyone feels that they have a vested interest. Everyone feels that this boat, if it sinks, we're all going to sink and drown together. You know what I'm saying? If it goes where, to safety, then it's going to benefit all of us. And that's, per se, one of the greatest or easiest ways to get everybody, working cohesively like that. With the Democrats in this big tent that they like to that we like to talk about, it's a lot of different factions, a lot of people wanting to roll in various directions. And honestly, in order for the coalition to stick together as long as it has required a lot of concessions, especially, from African Americans, a lot of, well, because for one, uh, our brand, our perception in the country is not great. So you don't want to be seen as really advocating or doing a whole lot for, African Americans. And, even people within the same Democrat coalition are not for various things that other people in the coalition are for. So it's a lot harder to bring all of these groups along, at the same
Um,
time. They
I
want different.
actually,
Okay, jump in there, Liz.
I think that it's not. I mean, of course, there's always a racial component to about everything, especially on a scale as big as politics or the government. But I also think that that an avenue that hasn't really been explored. A lot of Republicans come from these very cult-like backgrounds, right? They kind of are just zombies. You know what I mean? Which is why they claim to be the religious right or whatever. You tell them all to be at a certain place at a certain time on a certain day, and they're all there, right? Democrats, as far as I can tell, tend to be a lot more independently minded, which is why we're made up of so many different people. We're a lot of independent people capable of free and independent thought, doing what we want to do and trying to advance our agendas individually, whereas they're kind of collective in that one sense, right? Like there is one religion in the Republican Party. How many religions can you think of in the Democratic Party? Just as an example, right? There is one race that dominates the Republican Party. How many of them are in the Democratic Party, right? So of course we just have more going on, and so it's harder to unify people that are capable of thinking independently. And I don't mean it as a dig, but Republicans don't necessarily think independently. They
But I
never
would
have.
jump in and say that the unfortunate thing is if I've been playing by the same rule book for all these years, I would then sit back and say, wait, my strategy's not working. I don't. Maybe I need to go back in there, redo my plays, and do something different. Now I understand when there's many different personalities and religions and different viewpoints, it is hard to kind of all migrate together. But I mean, we have time. I mean, at the end of the day, and this is crazy. Like I said, I was talking to Specs when Trump was doing everything he did when he was in office. He's been telling you what your future lies. Like I'm showing you my actions. I'm gonna let me show you who I'm gonna put in support. Let me show you how I'm gonna put certain people in certain places to hold me down. And I feel like I'm gonna say us. I feel like society just kind of sat there like, oh, that Trump is always talking that
It
talk.
never happened, right?
And he's just so silly with it, but he's showing you exactly who he is. And it's like, okay, we'll move on to the.
So Z said, and I kind of lost my place here, everyone should listen to or read Justice Sotomayor's dissent. Actually, I was going to mention that when Cash was speaking, I think we're interpreting it differently. The interpretation that Justice Sotomayor gave was that as long as the president says he was doing it within his official capacity, that is what it is. And there's immunity for that. There is the court's going to decide if it was within their official capacity. It's as long as they say that it was, it was.
No, yeah,
And
I have the same, sort of interpretation. When I say that the court says that they will decide, wink, wink, it's the idea that you can bring up, okay, you're being impeached for this particular crime. And you're saying, well, no, I feel this crime was a part of my official duty, or this act was a part of my official duty. They hold the right to go ahead and review that and to adjudicate that. But they also, as far as the standard of what they said the government would have to prove in order to say like it's not an official act.
But that's how it becomes subjective.
Right.
And subjective is the name of the entire criminal justice system. A police officer can choose to arrest you or not arrest you. There's discretion in what charge you are or aren't going to be charged with. There's discretion in your sentencing. There's discretion. It's a whole human element within this whole entire
but
thing.
to add to that, you think to yourself, he said that the Constitution needs to be amended. I feel like a president, like the other dictators overseas, they stay president forever. They stay rulers forever. That's kind of nice. He throws out little things. I know I'm a Gemini. He's a Gemini too. Liz, you a Gemini. But one thing that Geminis do, we tell you before we act.
This is what's about to happen, and then it happens.
We throw it out there. We be like, no. We throw it out there like, oh, it's really nice outside today. I wish I was doing so and so. That's the little breadcrumb we're giving you because you're gonna see us outside today. I don't know. He's telling you, and no one's listening.
Well, I don't even know if it's exactly a breadcrumb. I think that the conservative, wing of America, the far right wing of America, since the Civil War, they have laid the mark on how far they're willing to go.
Oh, they willing to go all the way. My grandmama said they will burn this country down.
Yeah.
All the way down.
So that's not a mystery. The only question is what is the other side willing to do?
Yeah. Right. So Annie asked, I'm concerned that should we oust Biden, those who would run will further divide the party. And that goes back to the initial concern that, if you have 100 people and 50 are Republican, let's say 48 are Republican, and you have 48 that are Democrats, but now you have these 10 that are Democrats that want this, and these 10, and these 10 people cannot win. So we have to either agree that we're going to come together, get at least the person in the office, and then fight our little fights, or we're just going to divide and lose forevermore. And I mean that's the issue that we keep running into, right? It's a long thing that Republicans fall in line and Democrats fall in love.
I think we have the frustration and the apathy though among the various factions in the Democrat Party is that compromise is understandable. The idea that you tell me, hey, you got to be pragmatic. You have to be willing to negotiate. African Americans cannot be single issue voters. Like you tell me this stuff, right? Like I have to compromise on some pretty core things, for me to be a part of this coalition. And the frustration and the feeling is that ever since we ended Reconstruction, like ever since the 3/5 compromise, that compromise has always been at the expense of certain groups of that coalition because others are sacred cows that can never be sacrificed. Let's take, for example, the debate between the infrastructure bill during Biden's tenure, the infrastructure bill, as well as the Build Back Better plan. Well, the infrastructure bill was seen to be more for corporations and white people, as they get some 95% of all, the contracts and stuff. So that's seen as more of a boon for them, which is why you would have Republicans who would never vote for anything with Democrats were willing to vote, almost 50-50 with Democrats for this infrastructure bill. The left side of the Democrat Party is like, well, hey, we don't even want to vote for this infrastructure bill unless we're going to guarantee we're going to pass Build Back Better, which has all these things in it for low-income families. We're going to, permanently put in, this new earned income credit where everybody's getting, $300 a month for each child under 17. And we're going to do all these great things. And it's like the Democrat Party basically sabotaged it, allowing the, conservative wing to go ahead and get the infrastructure, but not the, Build Better. And it was like, man, again, you know what I'm saying? Like, okay, like every time we compromise, every time we have to have this discussion, the result is always the same. It's always, and it can't just. That's not team building. You know what I'm
I,
saying?
I understand you guys. I promise you I do, right? But sticking to the analogy that of 100 people, you got 48 people that are unbreakably Republican that literally have the opposite of the best intention for you at heart, right? And so you do have to compromise with the other 48 because there's people in the middle that are independents or whatever. So I say 48 and 48 for argument's sake, right? So of your 48, if you had to vote, and you kind of have to, please, if you're not voting out there, you guys, please vote, right? You can either let those 48 people run the country, or you can at least have 1/4 of the 48 people on this side at least trying for you. These people are actively trying against you. A lot of them are actively implementing laws and going out of their way to legislate. And like you said, we're not a monolith. Even when you look at what they're doing to women's rights, just that and everything else, right? So would you rather let those 48 people, or would you rather try to get these 10 to convince the other 38 on this side to help you out?
It's so interesting that you said that, for the simple fact that I hear, and I know Alistair had a question about that closet conservative, and I'll jump on that in a second. But I hear people talk about, well, you cannot vote for Biden. It has nothing to do with the age. Well, what does it have to do with? What did he do in reference to African Americans and getting them locked up, mass incarceration? And I understand he was sorry, but look all the lives, look all the families he's damaged and he's hurt. And I'm not disputing any of that. But current day, we have a party that is not in your favor, that wishes you bye-bye. But you
literally, yes.
Let's go on to the
yes, because we could go down this rabbit hole. So let's see. He said if Biden was drooling and in a coma, I'd vote for him over Donald Trump. And then I think you missed a comment from Alistair that we're living in some dark times, from Trump to the justices and the extremists on the far right. Yes, dark indeed. So let's see. Then we have another comment from Alistair. You could buy the whole country for the right price. We put some money together and we could buy a seat on the bench.
Pretty much.
That's how it's working. Yes. So let's see. Conservatives in the closet is so interesting to me. Why are they in the closet?
Oh, I use that terminology, in the closet, because just like for some people, they have their feelings, they have their viewpoints, but they do not want the public to know. It's interesting because just like right now, and even if you're not a big social media head, you may scroll on Instagram, maybe a dummy account or whatever that case may be, and you may start talking, and you may start feeling a certain way, but you would never, ever go to your job and talk that way. You would never, ever go into certain areas and talk that way. Well, if this is how you truly feel about women's rights, and this is how you truly feel about Black people, Spanish people, whatever, why don't you just be openly about who you are? Why is it that, well, I feel comfortable talking to Kia. Yeah, I'll tell her, and she's cool. But you would never get on a platform where people can hear you, because right now, the show that we're on, we're not insulting anybody. We're not demeaning anybody.
No disrespect, correct.
We're talking about some things that we looked up, some facts, and we're talking about it. And some people agree, some people don't agree. So why is it, undercovers, and that message goes for you, for all the people that be hiding behind the closet, why is it that you just don't feel that comfortable to stand on what you feel?
But I would say that we do live in a climate where increasingly is going to get worse and worse to let it be known what your political affiliation is. Now there are some people. There's some people who are making a lot of money, off of, hey, I'm a Black conservative or whatever, But for some people who are, working at regular corporations or whatever, to hold certain views or to say certain things, you really are putting yourself at risk of being fired.
And you know what? For all types of scenarios, I was always taught by my grandma, don't talk about sex, religion, and politics in a public setting. You just don't do it. But we are in many public settings, and people talk about it wholeheartedly. My point is, if you are going to stomp your fist and say, this is what it is, Biden's trash, he's this, blah, 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 Trump, Well, let's talk about it. Why are you
That you
afraid
can't talk about it.
to talk about it? Like,
Well, yeah, that's something else. Yeah.
It
People,
is. It is
yeah,
weird,
yeah.
and
You do have a lot of people who are scared or unwilling to,
oh, if you
you know,
like him. There's nothing
try to
wrong with
defend,
liking people.
their position,
But
intellectually.
but you know what I noticed? I noticed that some of those people can sway, meaning like they're like, okay, wait, who we rooting for today? Wait, okay. And based on who they're around, they kind of double dutch with it or whatever. And I'm like, no. Let's not play these games. Based on what topic we're talking about, I will go different ways. Now, when I vote, I have voted Democratic because the politics that the Republicans are wanting to instill do not benefit my family. It's not per se me. I'm good. It's my family. And I happen to be African American, and a lot of my African American people and neighbors and this, they're not per se doing well in the aspect of their upper middle class, and they're living on the high horse and this. So I want policies in play that will affect them in the long run.
I'm actually going to take it a step further than that. I've gotten even past, and I vote as a Democrat because I do believe it's in the best interest of my family, but I've actually gotten past that at this point because I used to be persuadable, right? So, for example, John McCain, I had a lot of respect for. I ultimately didn't vote for him, but it was actually fairly close for me, closer than you would think, right? Mitt Romney, maybe he wasn't exactly my cup of tea, but I wouldn't have been embarrassed. I've said that a million times. I'm sure you've heard that before. I wouldn't have been embarrassed if Mitt Romney was president. At this point, though, I think that we're voting. I've always considered myself a patriot. I'm genuinely. I love this country. I know it's imperfect. I know we have a lot of work to do, but I can't think of a better country. I can't think of another country I'd rather live in. And so if you believe in the country and you're raising kids in this country and you want the country to still exist, and continue to work towards what it was designed to do, there is an inherent danger to it. And not to be one of those people that's sounding the doomsday bell. I mean, the show is that, we titled it Are We Doomed? But yeah, we actually are, because what we're doing is we're talking about somebody that has openly said he wants to be a dictator. We're talking about the people following saying that they actually wouldn't mind a dictator. Have you guys seen that? They said they wouldn't mind a dictator. Now you've got the courts saying that you can act with impunity as long as you're saying that you're doing it in your official capacity, not even in the interest of the country, but in your own personal best interest, right? You've got somebody that'll tell you, I could kill somebody and I won't lose any followers. That is a cult leader, right? That is about as Jim Jones and people being shot on the runway as possible, right? And with absolute impunity. There's something about that goes against the fabric of what we're supposed to be doing as Americans, right? A question that I would ask if we had any actual Trump supporters that would dare to speak, right? If 9/11 happened, and 9/11 did happen under a Republican president, right? If 9/11 happened under Trump, can you guys imagine him saying that that's because the Democrats let all these immigrants in, and it's because of those liberals that we were attacked? Could you imagine? Because that's how I see that going down. If heaven forbid something happened on our soil and we were attacked that way, we wouldn't have the president that would be talking about Americans coming together.
He's kind of has alluded to that. He's kind of has said that, like, oh, and I saw, all kinds of Muslims on rooftops.
Well, not even that. I hear from the undercover.
The definitely trying to make it seem like
from the undercover concern. Do you know that these immigrants are raping Black babies? And I'm like, now, granted,
I can't do it.
Get assaulted. No, people get assaulted all the time.
Mm-hmm.
All the time. But it is a mass thing that's happening because of these immigrants. They are assaulting the Black woman. And I'm
only the immigrants are committing these crimes. Can you believe this?
Now, who was assaulting the Black woman before the immigrants?
Right. Now here is the thing, though, and so with that being said about how dire the situation is, and how aggressive we need the Democrat Party to be, it just seems unfortunate that the party does not seem prepared or willing to be as aggressive as the other side in their aggressiveness and tearing down freedom. They're not meeting it as aggressively as far as building up freedom. So the other side, they really don't have any sort of, the only thing that they have kind of said that they're not willing to do is, okay, we won't, I guess, per se, break the Constitution. They will at least say that in word, right?
Yeah,
Now, you can question that indeed in some of the stuff that they've done, but at least in word, it's like, well, hey, we changed. So Republicans changed a lot of the filibuster rules surrounding the Supreme Court for us to get the current Supreme Court. But they will say that, hey, that was legal, what we did. Democrats aren't willing to do things that are legal, that are simple rule changes. The amount of justices on the Supreme Court is not something that's written in the Constitution.
That's not in the Constitution, correct?
Democrats can change that if they want, but the president, Biden has already indicated, because he does not want to be seen as too far to the left. Whereas on the right, there's no such thing, damn near, as being seen too far to the right. And so this is how you end up with a country that just continues to drag to the right, because there is no too far right. But there absolutely, at least from the establishment,
well, that's what I was saying.
The Democrat Party, there is a such thing as a too far left.
That's what I was saying. It seems as if the Democrats, they play safe, they have civility, and the Republicans are like, hey, we cut through.
Well, let me just interject this. Think about this. When it came to this and how we have this current Supreme Court, Mitch McConnell, the Republicans, canned Obama's nomination and sat it on the sideline, saying, oh, well, there was 9 months left before the election. The seat ended up being open for more than a year. Amy Coney Barrett, who they put in right before the election, it was 9 days before they were getting ready.
All of a sudden, it wasn't too soon. Absolutely. And so we do have a million comments that we have got to get to.
I cannot go to war with a party who would allow these people to do something that flagrantly hypocritical and to just turn around and say, well, guys, we'll do it next time.
Let's play, right?
Now you're playing in my face.
So Z said to the panel, do you think that it is wrong to ask President Biden to take a cognitive test? You know what?
Not at all. For me, not at all.
Oh, you know what? I'm going to let me double down the way that the other side would. Do you think in a million years that the Republicans would have Trump take a cognitive test?
Absolutely
That's exactly what Cash just said. Let's play their way.
No. You're absolutely both.
Hold on. Trump's fitness for office has nothing to do with his cognitive ability. It has. When Trump was 26, he did not have great cognitive ability. There's no time within Trump's lifespan that he had this great intellectual capacity.
No, he's never been very.
That is not what part of the criteria has ever been for holding office.
And we're not starting today.
On the right side of the United States of America.
So I'll say this: when it comes to being sharp-witted, not even verbally, because we know he has a speech impediment, but when it comes to being sharp-witted, quick decisions. What we can see on TV, he is kind of slow. For what reason, I don't know. Like he said, hey, I was traveling too long, or maybe one time he was.
You can't get caught up in that.
No. And I'm not saying that we are.
Arguments like that was like when they used to say oh, black people don't have jobs because they don't have the training. They need more training.
I'll say this. So the question she asked, and you have to hear what the question that Z asked was to the panel: do you think it's wrong to ask President Biden to take a cognitive test? The question wasn't, hey, let's play by the other side and would the Republicans do it? I just want to answer specifically that question. For me personally, I feel that we should ask everybody, whoever we want in there, hey, do you do it like this? Let's see those tax records. Let's do this. Whatever you feel would check the box off for you to say, hey, this person, this woman, this man is a good candidate, by all means. That's how I feel in reference to that. Now, granted, are people doing slick
So
stuff?
what
Well,
I'm
hey,
seeing from the comment is he specifically is asking if Biden should take a cognitive test. And I don't think Biden specifically should take a cognitive test. If they want to establish a cognitive test for the presidency of the United States of America, they can establish a cognitive test for the presidency of the United States of America. That is perfectly fine. But outside of that, to answer the question, very, very frankly, no.
No.
For specifically Biden.
we got
Why
two
would you
no's
have
and
the
one. We got
cognitive
two
test
no's. We
with
got
one
two no's.
specific person?
No. We got two no's and one yes. And once again, the reason why I said yes is only because if that, I feel that if we are going to hire a nanny for our babysitter for our baby or whatever, we have the right to ask any question. If they don't want to be asked a question, they don't have to apply for the job. If this makes you feel better, that all presidents or just him or whatever.
Well, I guess there's universal criteria.
That's true.
For jobs set forth in the Constitution. The Republicans, the far right, like to say that they are strict constitutionalists. There are strict guidelines and requirements for you to be president of the United States of America.
Did we
You
ever
have to
get
be
Trump's
35 years
taxes
old. You have to be a natural born citizen. It don't say nothing in the
That's
Constitution
true.
About a cognitive test. It
You
does
know,
not.
you know
That's
who's the
true.
cognitive test that's listed in the Constitution of the United States of America? The American people.
That's true.
The
Actually,
American people choose that they want to go ahead and elect an invalid as the president of the United States of America.
That's
then the
Right.
Constitution
That's true.
forces that.
That's true.
And
right.
nobody
Because
has
what do we
any-
want them to do next, right? Do a triathlon? We've had a president in a wheelchair before. You don't need to do that. What I'll also say, Kia, because you mentioned that he's not as quick, to it, right? The other guy is let's call it what it is. He's a con artist, right? And any con artist has to be kind of sharp, right? Because it doesn't take any time to come up with a lie. You're making shit up on the fly, right?
Yeah.
I do not today, not tomorrow, not ever do I want a president that's flying by the seat of his pants. I promised you that, right? On the podcast, this is all kind of, it's fun and it's we're having a conversation. But in real life, when I have to make real decisions, and my husband, my team, anybody will tell you, I take a minute to think about what my next move is and what the next move after that is going to be. So I have no problem, zero problem with somebody that's going to consider all the facts, go through the history, consult with people, and then get back to me in a couple of days with an answer if it requires it. And if not, I do expect the president to at least have all the best people around him. Personally, I think Biden does. And I think that scumbag and his whole crew is a no thank you for me. But
Scumbag. Only on Unfiltered will you get the word scumbag. Okay.
that part. That part. I know that Adele asked this question 3 times, so she must really want an answer. Let's get to it, right? She said, at Z, I would first want to ask if a convicted felon should be allowed to run for president.
I like the question.
You can't vote for president if you're a convicted felon. I don't think you should be able to run. But to take Kashim's point, it's not in the Constitution that you can't run.
Constitution say what it say.
So let's see. Most Republicans, this is Annie. Most Republicans will tell you that Trump is not guilty of any of the charges made against him. Biden had a bad day. There is nothing the matter with his mind. And so, no, please, no cognitive test. I'm here. I'm right there with you, Annie.
See, I've been getting tomatoes.
I'm right there with you. So Alistair said, I've met a husband and wife where the wife, whom was white, was unwilling to share with her husband why she supported Trump. Oddly, they were both Trump supporters.
Oh, wait.
Think
A
about
husband and a wife where the wife, whom was white, was unwilling to share with her husband why she supported Trump. Oddly, they were both interesting. I would love to talk to them.
Put that in your pipe and smoke it, right? So Z is answering Adele. They were having a whole conversation while we were having a conversation. You guys see that? So Z said to Adele, I agree with your sentiment, but as Liz said, Democrats will fall in love and Republicans will fall in line. And to some who are on the fence, this love story is starting to show red flags. Okay, interesting.
Hey,
Hi, Charles. Welcome to the conversation. So Charles said many conservatives align their interests with economics, and they believe economics is aligned with the Republican Party, religion, capitalism, and Western system of government and nationalism. Then he went on to say, Republicans don't fall in line. Republicans are having their own internal struggles, which is leading to conflict with the House of Representatives. The Republican voters are pushing out the moderate. The Republican voters are
No,
pushing
yeah,
out the
it's
House.
funny. It's funny. So
Well,
on the Republican
good
side,
point.
they are having the
They are.
exact opposite fight that we are having on the left. So on the right, you had the Tea Party,
Mhm.
who was, you would say, the base of the Republican Party. And they were upset that you had what they considered these, bland milk toast, rhino Republican in name only,
Right.
people who, if they were elected, there were things that were on the conservative wish list that they wouldn't even have the, grandiose to even bring up. We're not even going to try to, overturn Roe versus Wade or, be full throated about any of this stuff that we all know that we want and that we talk about, what I'm saying, behind closed doors. And the Tea Party started primarying these people and running them out. And, they were willing to lose when it came to McCain and Romney. A lot of them
Yeah, they
withheld their
thought they were
vote.
too soft.
So what? Republicans, like, we just going to take the L. And they got their man who was willing. He said, look, I'll give you the names of the justices that I will put on the Supreme Court. I will.
Mhm.
He gave them exactly
And speaking
what
and
they
the
wanted.
segue to that, I'm glad you mentioned that, Charles, and then of course Kashim just chiming in. So you have these softer Republicans, and then you have that far right. And
Well, George Bush ran on the term of compassionate conservatism.
so I
Imagine
want to
that.
say it's a good segue just to let you know, if you guys don't know, Project 2025. It's out there. Go online and read it. It's a collection of conservatives and right-wing policy proposals from the Heritage Foundation, and their objective is to reshape the United States and the federal government by basically ixnaying everything. It's so funny. I was reading it more because this keeps going on and on and on. I mean, they're trying to hit the veterans. I was like, not the veterans. My God. The veterans, African Americans, the children, the women, the Latinos, the this, the this. I'm like, oh my God. Now, it's interesting because there was something going on in the news just recently that Trump came out. He came out on that Twitter and he was like, I
Yeah.
don't know nothing about no Project
Nothing
2025.
about it.
Oh yeah, by the way, I did not sleep with Stormy Daniels.
Mhm. Mhm.
But I don't know nothing about no Project 25. It's interesting because I had some of those undercover conservatives come, hey, did you hear? Did you hear the news? He don't got nothing to do with it. So it's good to go. You're good to go.
Mhm.
But when I was talking
Mhm.
to Tex, he mentioned something to me. He said, hey, did you read Agenda 47? Well, let me go look at Agenda 47. This is the
Mhm.
policy platform that Donald Trump is running on. And if there was 100 policies and direction that Project 2025 wants to go, I would say Project 47 may have maybe 80 of them. So it's just a softer version of
Mhm.
what Project 2025 is. So instead
Mhm.
of just coming out and be like, hey, we're going to beat you, your sister and your mama too, they're like, okay, we're just going to beat you and your mama, not your sister. So I want you guys to look at that so you can kind of compare to see, because once again, you got to do your research. And unfortunately, there are a lot of people who just kind of go off the headlines and don't
Right.
really follow through.
Right. So let's see. Alice just said, but you have two parties playing by different rules. You have the Republicans playing for their party first, and you have the Democrats playing for the entire country. Right. So, and he said, we need to purge ourselves of the propaganda spoken against the Democratic Party and ourselves as a people and vote for Biden. Period. that right there,
I'll
like,
say this,
period.
just
Stop it.
to Annie's comment, I'll say this. As much as I can say, hey, there's a flaw over here in the Democratic Party, right?
Mm-hmm.
I truly believe that if Trump is in office, he is going to rock y'all world. When I tell you, like, if you think, oh, there's nothing crazy going on, when I tell you it's gonna be some stuff, and when I was talking about it, prepping was my main thing that always drawn me. Like, I'm survivalist. I know how to prep. When you think about prepping, you're thinking about the hurricane that's coming through, or, oh, what about this and this and this? Oh, COVID, that was a big thing. How do we prepare? I prepare. But you have to politically prepare, because once I changed the laws, you know what's so funny? I was reading one of the policies that they have in play, and it was about civil rights. So right now you used to hear about it a lot, especially during the COVID time frame, all the different types of shootings by the police officers and stuff. But it ended up being taken, the cases have been taken by the federal government. Now they're looking at the police department and say, hey, wait a second. This whole police department has been doing these fraudulent things and this and this. That policy was saying, no, we're not doing that no more. We're not going to be taking up no civil rights cases. Ain't no civil rights cases over here. And I'm like, wait now. And you just have to really, really be aware of what is about to happen. Once again, people vote the way they feel, and like, oh, well, I don't stand for you know, trans to play the same sex sports. I hate it. And you know, that's why I'm voting for Trump. You got to look at the bigger picture, guys.
So let's see. Charles said, voting for more fire and brimstone Republicans like Representative Green. Oh gosh, please don't bring the bad body Butch.
Butch body. What did you say?
Don't bring her up. He said, remember, he passed with flying colors. That's when Trump was talking about cameraman, woman, fox, hose, whatever he was talking about. He lied. Dumb. Adele said at Winslow, yes, there is no denying Biden isn't the best candidate. However, when we're about to hear about someone stepping down or showing red flags, why is Biden the only one we're talking about? That's because only the Democrats would eat their own like that. The Republicans would never. Trump is the hill that they're going to die on. Right. And we need to get it together. And we need to make Biden the hill that we're going to die on unless he decides otherwise. And if he does decide otherwise, the most orderly way that could go is for him to secure the nomination at the convention. And then he can actually step down after he's done so. If for the people that are thinking that he should step down, if he's going to step down tomorrow, I hope you're planning for the chaos that's going to ensue.
That's a rumor that's been going around. Monday is going to be D-Day in reference to that. Now, of course, we wouldn't know. We don't work for that, agency.
We don't need that.
But that's what they're saying. Monday's going to be the day.
So
yeah, I don't think Biden is going to step down or would step down.
I don't think he should. I think that is the chaos that would
nor do I think he should. Not honestly, I'm not a big Biden supporter like that or whatever. But I think that right now they are in power over the party. So if you don't, Black people in the last two presidential primaries voted for the centrist wing of the party to the tune of 80-20. We voted 80-20 for Hillary over Bernie. We voted 80-20 for Biden over Bernie. We've had opportunities. Last time when Biden was gone, it was Kamala, Elizabeth Warren. We've had opportunities, if we want to go to a more left, situation in order to do so. And whether some people may or may not like how we got there, ultimately, it's us. We did it. Right. We did it. So if you want, something or someone different, or we are really,
you have to be able to strategize.
Our leadership.
The Republican Party strategizes. Just in general, don't mean to call out an actual demographic, but white people, they strategize 50, 100 years in advance. While we're over here like, now what we doing? Now what's the plan? They're already setting things up. Now when this area floods out, because this area is going to flood out in the next 20 years, we'll tell them 25, 50. But when it floods out, we're going to put the resort over here. We're going to raise up this. We're going to do this and do this. We wait. Now I know there's people who don't wait, but I'm talking about the group. The masses will wait and be like, oh, now what's going on? Now what's flooding? Because I had booked a trip over there, and now and it's like, what the fuck? Where have you been? Where have you been? When I tell you he's literally in your face, like you said, playing in your face. He's been playing in your face for so long. When this man got a map out, and so the hurricane trajectory, he had the map, and he said it's coming in, but he had drew in another area. I'm like, he's showing you. It's not a game.
I mean, but here's the thing. Here's the part of that is that when you are hired for a job, you are hired. People hire you for a particular thing, for a particular skill set. You know, if you hire me to fly airplanes, people may not really care about the fact that you carry a lunchbox or something stupid or whatever. Like, can you fly the airplane? Like, if you can do that well, then I'm willing to overlook a whole lot of other stuff. Trump is there for white supremacy to make sure if you replace the word America with white, if you replace the term America first with white first, the superpower that he has, and you know they can't even, because of the illusion that we have in this country, we can't even talk about it honestly on the news or whatever. They'd be like, man, I don't know why people are voting for Trump. Yeah, we do know why people were voting for Trump. Yeah, we do know why. Because he's promised to put them first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth.
And actually, I just went on the page. If you guys, right after the show's over, we'll be closing it out in a little bit. We did have some technical issues in the beginning, so we started like 5-10 minutes late. But I promise you, Agenda 47, Donald Trump, it'll come up his whole website and everything he stands for. Everything Cash said, except for white supremacy, fill those words in. It was like, yes, we're taking this down, we're changing this, I'm like, oh, you want to make it one of them good old boy towns. Oh, okay. Oh, all right. I mean,
the country has already kind of been, you know, when you look at the census data, white people have 95% of all wealth in America. So honestly, I really don't even know what they're up to, what they're trying to do. Like, are you just trying to get the other 5%? Like you're really going to end up destroying the whole entire thing in your greed and trying to get the other 5%.
Oh yeah.
It's like when people talk about, oh, the New World Order and the Illuminati is coming, and these people are going to be running the world. Well, who's running the world now? What is this agenda you talking about that's going to come in 20 or 30 or 40 years? Like, who? It's just billionaires, people who got enough money, you know, to buy and sell entire countries. Bill Gates, like, owns so much of the entire world. What are you talking about?
Right.
About eventually, or what they're trying to impose.
They're already doing it. That's it.
The world is already set up how they
want
want
it. Crazy is like this doomsday gonna happen. You know, 10 years from now.
The way that your job is set up, the people who are the CEO and the top of your job, the people who are the middle management, all this stuff has already been curated. Take a look at the whole. Drive down the street. If you drive down the street and just, all these commercial buildings, who own these commercial buildings? Any building, any city, anywhere you at.
Right. So now I will say this. It is late. It is after 10 on a Sunday night. I know you guys have to go. This has been a super engaging conversation. We still have a couple comments to get through. But you know, let's make no mistake about it. As Cash mentioned, right? This is the horse that we put the saddle on. So giddy up. This is just Biden is what we have if you're a Democrat. Like, period, right? For the people that are out there that are saying that I'm not voting because my vote doesn't matter and these elections don't affect me directly and so on and so forth, because I've heard all of it. This is me being as unfiltered as possible. Fuck around and find out. Don't vote. Then don't vote, right? You know that Cash just put up a comment right there. He said European Americans vote because of nationalism, economics, and religion. Hispanic and African Americans are voting for several different reasons. Right. So that kind of goes back to what I was saying there. It's a collection of minorities that make up the majority at this point. We got to try to stick together on this. It couldn't possibly be any more important. And when they're telling you directly how they think about us and how they feel about us, if you notice, he also said Hitler said the same thing. If you notice, the latest appeal to Black people that the Republicans have is, he's a convict too. Really? Like, think about that. Seriously, if you went to work tomorrow, anybody, I challenge anybody in the entire audience, right? If you went to work tomorrow and somebody said, "Oh, I need a housekeeper. Is your mom available?" Or if they said, you get it, he's a felon, like your husband. Isn't your husband a felon? Right? Or anything like that. You'd be real tight about those assumptions. You would really feel some kind of way, right? I don't know when it became so acceptable or so pro-Black for him to go out there with the felons talking about how Black people get me because I'm convicted now. And we're just laying around thinking, okay, that's fine. There's something really, really, really nasty that's going on, and it's very, very in our face. And for us to act like, well, we're just not going to vote because I'm tired of hearing about it. Don't tell me that you're not going to vote. Don't tell me that you're on the fence about Biden. Get it together. We will fight tomorrow. But today, the objective is to live to see another day.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
my
I
two
was
cents.
going to say last words with Liz, but she kind of already summed that up. I mean, we already know this conversation can go on and on and on.
Mm-hmm. Oops, did I lose you?
More to come. You'll probably see another flyer come through. Constantly see more and more. We don't know what Biden's going to talk about. Is he going to step down? Who is Trump going to pick for the vice president?
Mm-hmm. I think we're losing you, Kia.
Hearing talks of Marco Rubio to pull the Hispanic vote, and more developments to come. But until then, stay unfiltered. And
have a great week, everybody. Good night.
Bye.